Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Razan Pereira. Assam Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal has said that he had no reason to continue in his post if he could not protect the interest of the people of the state. He was interacting with the editors of print and electronic media in Guwahati on the prevailing situation in the state following the recent visit of the Joint Parliamentary Committee on the Citizenship Amendment Bill of 2016. A key amendment in the bill seeks to grant citizenship to people without valid documents from 6 minority communities: Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis and Christians from Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan after 6 years of residence in India. The 16-member JPC headed by BJP MP Rajendra Agarwal had visited the state from May 7th to May 9th to elicit views from stakeholders on the Citizenship Amendment Bill 2016, which was introduced in the Lok Sabha to amend the Citizenship Act of 1955. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will take a closer look at the Citizenship Amendment Bill. Joining me on the program today are A.K. Bhattacharya, Editorial Director of the Business Standard; Rajendra Agarwal, Chairperson, Joint Committee on Bill to amend the Citizenship Act of 1955; Professor Sanjoy Hazarika, Director, Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative; and Trina Roy, Program Officer, PRS Legislative Research. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Bhattacharya, I'd like to begin with you. Why is the Citizenship Amendment Bill in the news in Assam all over again?
Well, it's for two reasons. One, its very nature is very controversial because citizenship is very dear to every citizen in this country. So it seeks to differentiate the claimants of citizenship on the basis of religion. So, which is why it's become very important and controversial as well. And the second thing is that this law, if it is passed, will probably violate the Assam Accord of 1985, which is why it's become more controversial in Assam. Because the indigenous people of Assam may feel that the Hindus who may have migrated to that zone, even though they came after 1985 or that year, 1971, I think, 1971, they will be treated as citizens as long as they've stayed there for 6 consecutive years. So, for two reasons. One is this amendment conferring citizenship is being proposed to be made on the question of their religion, which is controversial. And the second is that it violates the spirit of the Assam Accord of 1985, which had not allowed people who had come into the state after 71 the citizenship rights.
Sure, indeed. You know, Professor Hazarika, does the Citizenship Bill breach the clauses of the Assam Accord, and what does the Assam Accord state?
Well, the Assam Accord states very clearly that anybody who came to Assam illegally after 1971 would be deported. And it doesn't really discriminate on the basis of religion. And this is really the critical point. Why should citizenship be granted on the basis of a person's religion? And I think the chairman of the JPC, who's on your program, will tell you that the reactions in Assam have been very strong. And what is interesting is the division between the Brahmaputra Valley and the Barak Valley, because a lot of, I think, what we would say minority persons in Bangladesh, which would be Hindus in Bangladesh, had come across more to the Barak Valley than perhaps to the Brahmaputra Valley, which has seen migration of another of Muslims of Bangla origin.
Sure.
So I think that's at the heart of the thing, and you would really find it difficult to find a common ground on this, as the JPC chairman himself has said they're prepared to go back to get a sense, because we'll come into this later again, but you know, we need to bear in mind there's an NRC process on, the National Register of Citizenship process, which is on, the announcement of which will be done in a couple of months. The final rules will be published. That is an extremely tedious, sensitive, and difficult and challenging process facing the state, which is dividing it right down the middle. You don't want anything that will cause greater anger, bitterness, and harm to people in this process.
Right.
You have to stand by the law, you have to stand by the treaties accepted in Parliament, and you have to uphold the rights of people, not violate them.
Right. Let me take the points that you're making to Mr. Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, the JPC on the citizenship bill just returned from the Northeast. What were your findings?
Definitely, we were there from rather 7th to 10th. 7th we were in Guwahati, and then 8th evening and 9th morning we were in Silchar. And again after that we went to Meghalaya, also Shillong. That was on 10th. So definitely we were having different views. Now the views had been made by all those organizations public. So, but as chairman of the committee, I just can't comment directly on those views. But definitely the views were diametrically opposite also. Barak Valley was favoring the bill, while Brahmaputra Valley was all against the bill. They were very much apprehensive about the outcome of the bill, as my good friends has told on this panel also. And that's really the fact. And we feel, all the committee feels, we have before us very sensitive task, very uphill task to accommodate all these views. But one thing I want to say, earlier we have gone to western part of India also, to Rajasthan, to Gujarat. There we also met people. So if we think on all India scene of the bill, then there are definitely very different kind of reactions, very different kind of responses, and definitely we are to take into consideration all the views, and committee will then take decision what to be there in the report.
Okay, so divergent views coming out of Assam is what you're saying, different regions reporting differently to you. Would you be visiting Assam again anytime soon to try and get some kind of consensus?
Yeah, might be, because the committee felt this. Some more people, more organizations from different part of Assam, say northern part of Assam, they wanted to be before the committee. Although we had already called so many organizations to Delhi also, and they came. We have got quite a good number before the committee earlier. But as the demand was, as the expectations were there, we might see, we might go again to some parts of Assam, and of course to Tripura and all other places where the stakeholders regarding this bill are. So we will think to go to these places.
Okay, Professor, I can see you putting up your hand. I think you want to intervene. Go ahead, make your point.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that in Meghalaya also the view, I believe, of that the JPC received was against the amendment, very strongly against the amendment, whether it's the Khasi Students' Union or other groups, that they did not want an accession, they did not want the bill to be passed as the amendments to be passed. That's one. I just wanted to ask the chairman, I don't want to put him on the spot, but since this is a national bill, it's not just for Assam, it's for other parts of the country, for the whole country. Can I ask him if a possibility before the JPC is making an exception in the case of Assam and not allowing the amendments, not enabling the amendments to be applicable in the case of Assam, as was done as far as the Foreign Tribunals Bill was concerned, Act was concerned. It didn't apply to other parts of India,
Sure.
but only to Assam. So why don't you reverse that?
Okay, Mr. Agarwal, do you want to take that question? Are you in a position to answer that?
Yes. They gave, it's right that some people suggested that Assam could be kept out of the amendment. And one more idea was there, right now it's for 3 countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. Could Bangladesh be kept out of this? So there are these views, and very pragmatic views rather, I should say. The committee will consider all these factors, sitting with the officials of different ministries, all the members of different parties, different stakeholders from states, and as I said, from parties. Definitely these sensitive issues are to be addressed, and we will take care how can some consensus report can come. We will see it. Definitely, as I told in my first reaction, we have got a very uphill task to accommodate all the sensitivities and aspirations of the people.
Okay, very frankly answered there by Mr. Agarwal. You know, there are several things that need to be taken into consideration. All stakeholders will be consulted, and probably some kind of a consensus report will come out sometime soon. Is what the chairperson of the JPC is suggesting. Let me go across to Trina Roy now. You know, as far as the Citizenship Amendment Bill itself is concerned, what is it all about, really?
So the Citizenship Amendment Bill was introduced in July 2016. And it amends the Citizenship Act of 1955. The Act actually lays out the process for acquiring citizenship of India. And according to the Act, you can be an Indian citizen either by birth, by parentage, or by residing in the country for a certain time period. Now, the Act disallows or prohibits illegal migrants from becoming Indian citizens. Now, what we look at the Citizenship Amendment Bill, it makes an exception to this illegal migrants. It provides or makes it eligible for a certain group of illegal migrants to acquire citizenship. So, this group of illegal migrants, and first I'll just take a step back to explain who are illegal migrants. Illegal migrants are people who've entered the country without valid travel documents or have overstayed beyond the permitted time. So the bill looks at addressing this group of illegal migrants, which is certain groups, that is 6 religions, that is Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, Christians and Sikhs belonging to the countries of Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh will be now eligible for citizenship.
Right. You know, Mr. Bhattacharya, as the arguments on both sides now, if you look at Assam in particular, Meghalaya, the Chief Minister has said that he's not going to go ahead with the bill as well. That's where he's categorically stated that. So there seems to be a lot of opposition from the Northeast. Is the opposition justified?
Well, you know, I think it is justified because for 2 reasons. One, while the current law, let's say in the constitution of the country, has something called Article 14, which is right to equality. Now, when you have the right to equality, it does not allow differentiation of any group of people unless there is a reasonable purpose which is mentioned. Now, unfortunately, as far as I know, that this Citizenship Amendment Bill does not mention any reasonable purpose for which a differentiation is thought to be made. Now, I think as long as you do not make it very clear that what is the reasonable purpose, that not everybody who is an illegal migrant who can become a citizen under this thing will be clear. Like the Assam Accord set a date. Say it's 1971, anybody comes after that will be deported. No, there was no differentiation of any groups. So, but in this Citizenship Amendment Bill, you are making a differentiation on the basis of the religion. Now, that to my mind is standing on very weak constitutional firmament. And my sense is, even though Mr. Agarwal has mentioned that in other states it has received some support, my fear is that it will definitely face some problem in passing muster as far as the constitutional validity of this law is concerned. That's number one. Number 2 is that if you do introduce it in Assam and in Meghalaya, you do you run into the Assam Accord, and you also raise the question of whether you want to treat all citizens of a state in the same way without differentiation on the basis of their caste, creed or religion. So I think on both grounds, this bill has a lot of hurdles to overcome, even though it might see that Assam is the only state or Meghalaya is the only state. But in many states will actually find this differentiation of groups of people, and that being the criterion of granting citizenship to those who have illegally come to this country is fraught situation.
Sure. You know, Mr. Agarwal, do you want to respond to that? The bill itself constitutionally seems to be very fragile, and there certainly seems like an uphill task as far as the bill itself is concerned.
About this clause 14 of the Constitution, I think there is an element of religious persecution persecution on religious basis. And the minorities in these countries, 3 countries, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, the element of persecution on religion base, that is different, that makes different thing. We of course, we can't differentiate among the people on the basis of religion. That's our constitutional commitment. But the persecution element of this persecution, that makes some difference, I think. And of course, the bill, when it is drafted, some experts are there, they take care of all these constitutional obligations and consideration. So on this point particularly, I think the bill, it will not create much problem. Problem is about the, I think about this Assam Accord, because that was an accord between central government, state government, all the stakeholders, very important people. So that was rather an accord between people of Assam. So that is a big problem, and a big issue. I should not say problem. That big issue before the committee, and of course NRC, which is being conducted now under supervision of Supreme Court. That's also one very important thing, because say by end of June the register should be completed. Then which number is kept out of that, and what could be done about those people? That's a big issue before the committee, and we are to address these things. But as I said, regarding this clause 14, I don't think that becomes very big issue as I think.
Okay. Professor Hazarika, as far as the bill in Assam is concerned, the ruling BJP itself seems to be divided. What kind of a political fallout can we expect from this?
You quoted the Chief Minister saying that he, basically saying that he has no business to stay in power if he cannot protect the interests of the people of the state. We must remember that Sarvananda Sonowal was the ASU president, a member of the AGP and an MP of the AGP before he joined the BJP a few years ago. So there is a history to his life in the movement as a leader of the movement against illegal migration. It's not just something that he's talking about since he became Chief Minister, and everybody would do well to remember that. That's one. The second thing is that as far as, and I'm glad that Mr. Agarwal, the Honorable Chairman of the JPC, referred to this in his last comments, that the NRC process is also on. The final or the results will be out on the citizenship issue in a few weeks. And I'm sure that the JPC is constrained by that and the potential fallout of that, which is not going to be easy at all, because if the numbers are less than what some groups feel, then there will be agitation. If the numbers are more than what some groups feel, there will be agitation from another quarter. So it's a catch-22 situation in Assam. It's very tense and it's very, very difficult. On the point that was made earlier about Article 14, it just says the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. It doesn't talk about Indians there. And more than that is Article 21, which says that no person shall be deprived of his life or liberty except by due process of law. Again, no nationality is mentioned here. So whatever we do, is done, whether it's by the JPC or the process that's ongoing, it cannot be in violation of the basic tenets of the Constitution. Sure. It must uphold them.
Sure. I think that's something that I think that's something that Mr. Agarwal has very categorically stated, that it's going to uphold the Constitution itself, and it's not going to go against it, because there are very serious people who are putting things into place here. Taking the discussion forward, the professor spoke about history, Trina. Let's talk about a little bit about the history of the bill itself. What's the background of the Citizenship Bill?
So if we look at the Citizenship Amendment Bill, a related development to it was in 2015 and 2016, the central government had come out with 2 notifications, which also was addressing the same group of people, that is the people belonging to these 6 religions from the 3 countries. What the two notifications said were that people, illegal migrants belonging to these six religions and from these three countries will not be deported or imprisoned, and that means that they'll be exempted from the Passport Act and the Foreigners Act. After that, in 2016, this bill has come up and it is making them eligible, the same group of people eligible for citizenship. It was introduced in July, and now the bill is, as we know, with a joint committee. The bill was referred to a joint committee, I think, in August 2016 itself.
Sure, sure. Taking the discussion forward, Mr. Bhattacharya, which are the states that have this migrant problem and why?
Well, his historical reasons. I mean, you have all the border states, so to say. You have the migrant problem. Till recently used to have a problem even in Western Punjab side. Rajasthan has the problem. You have Tamil Nadu. You had the migrant problem. But of course, in terms of the intensity, the northeastern states and the West Bengal, even to some extent Bihar, all these states have had these migrant problems. And it is not just these states, because once you enter the Indian territory, you can actually, there's a free movement is possible. So therefore, it is migrant workers or illegal migrants is a problem that is there for any government to tackle. But to tackle this problem in the form of this bill is probably not the right thing to do at this point in time, particularly as I see that it has run into the Assam problem, the Meghalaya problem to some extent, and also because there are voices of protest emerging on the question of whether you can have a law which differentiates a group of people on the basis of their religion. So my sense is that yes, there is a problem of illegal migrants, but that problem cannot be tackled by framing a law that differentiates people on the basis of their religion.
Sure. Professor, that having been said, how do we tackle the problem going forward, and why haven't we been able to tackle the problem thus far?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Well, for one thing, the whole idea of deportation presumes that there is a deporting country to whom you can send people. In the initial stages of the Assam agitation, it was detection and deletion and deportation. Detection of illegals, deletion from the electoral rolls, and deportation ostensibly to Bangladesh. Well, Bangladesh says we have no nationals living in your country, you can't send them to us. So, and I think strategically, this government certainly has come to a very strong and stable relationship with Bangladesh as far as the geopolitics and the security of the northeast Bangladesh and the region is concerned, which is a very salutary thing, very important thing. But at the local level, the ruling party keeps harping on this issue of deletion and basically depriving people of the rights to vote and so on. Now, one of the problems that we are seeing being created is the entire notion of statelessness, And this is going to be a real problem in the years to come, which will draw attention from not just domestic groups, but also international organizations, whether it's the UNHCR, the IOM, or the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights. So we have to be increasingly aware that the eyes of the world are on us, especially after what's happened in the neighborhood in Burma and in Myanmar and Bangladesh.
Sure.
So we need to be extremely careful of the bigger picture, not just of what's happening right now.
Indeed. All right. And Mr. Agarwal, how does the center and the state governments deal with this problem? What are the options really?
That is the main issue. That is the main issue. For that, we have to sit again and again, because as my friend just told this, there will be so many persons, so many people who will stand stateless. What will happen to them? How to accommodate them? Only 70 odd people were identified as foreigners, but those people, even that small number, could not be deported. But we just don't have that type of bilateral understanding with Bangladesh. Only that is the real problem. So we will see, we will sit again with the state, with the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, small and big. One thing I want to say, just you will say, I was when this Shillong, our committee was in Shillong, one young man from, I think he was from Manipur. He was just saying, ours is a very small state, ours is a very small ethnic group. So I just intervened. Manga, you might be small, what are you talking of? मैंने उसको कहा, I just told him, I is very small organ of the body, but I is very important. That I want to say, every single small group, big group, every individual, we will try hard to accommodate his problems, his concerns. That much I can say. And
sure.
I believe that we will definitely get some way to solve these issues.
Okay, is there a solution in sight really?
I think there should be, because the problems are human and solutions are also human.
Okay, all right. Quick closing comment from Trina Roy on, how does the Citizenship Amendment Bill propose to change the Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955?
So, I'm going to break this down to three things. The Citizenship Amendment Bill amends the Act to make it's eligible for that group of illegal migrants to acquire citizenship. Now, under the Citizenship Act, one of the requirements for acquiring citizenship is that a person has to reside in India for 12 months and 11 years previous of the last 14 years. With regard to the illegal migrants, the group of illegal migrants, this 11-year period is relaxed to 6 years. Another thing that the bill does is with regard to OCI card holders, the bill provides a ground for cancellation of OCI card holders, and the ground is under violation of any law. So these are the broad things that the bill is looking to amend in the Act.
Okay, great. All right. On that note, then we'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.